So we just got back from some sea bass in here on Cape Cod, and I want to show you 3 ways to prep your sea bass for all different types of options when it comes to cooking them and preparing them for the dinner table. So we have our fish, they've been on ice, they've been bled. So first we're going to take our fish, that have been bled, that are nice and cold. And this first one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the skin on. And to do that, you're gonna scale where you're gonna fillet first, and that leaves the skin on. That can allow you to grill it easily without the flesh of the fish on the grate of the grill, or you can do like a pan-seared, crispy skin sea bass, which is also one of my favorites. So to do that, we're first gonna take our knife, and we're gonna use the back side of it, all right? And we're just gonna run it opposite of the scales. And that's gonna make a mess, but it's gonna get the scales off of the part with the meat. By using the back of the knife, it's not gonna dull your knife. Sea bass have very tough scales. So we got all our scales off of the sea bass. You're gonna take your knife, you're gonna make your head cut. You're gonna turn it around, cut down to the bone. You're running your knife right down the back of the bone to outline the fillet. And you're gonna remove the fillet like so. Sea bass have a pretty big rib cage, so you're going to take the fillet right off the ribs by running your knife over that rib cage, because if you do it by cutting through the rib cage, you're going to have a lot more pin bones than you would want. So now what you're left with is a sea bass fillet that you can have a nice crispy skin that you can eat. Rinse this off, there will be no scales, and you can get a really nice crisp on that crispy skin. The most common way to process a sea bass is to just simply fillet it, and with these tiger edge serrated knives, it's always good to make your first cut, your head cut, with a serrated knife if you have it handy. Do that like that. It's going to just preserve the edge of your fillet knife because of the rough skin the sea bass have. And you just fold your fillet back. So there, you get all the meat off the sea bass. You want to be able to see through it. Not bad for the first sea bass of the season. And then to fillet, to remove the fillet from this one, we left the scales on. So to remove the skin, you're going to make a little notch at the tail, like so. So you have something to grab purchase of. And you're going to run that knife as you pull it away from you, nice and flat along the underside of the fillet. And remove it as such. You should have no meat left on the fillet. So the most common way is a skinless fillet, and I like to do some fillets with the skin on so that you can prepare it for certain dishes like crispy skin. It's easier to grill that way. It holds up to the high heat on a grill with the skin on. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to prepare a whole fish. And to do that, it's kind of a process, but once you get through it, you're rewarded with one of the best tasting dishes that you'll ever have. We have recipes on onthewater.com to check out some different preparations. A whole fried fish or a whole steamed fish, there's nothing better. That seems like a good size for a whole fish preparation. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take your knife and you're gonna run it right down the underside of where you bled the fish, right through the pec fins, open up the cavity so you can get all these guts out of the fish. And there's this little like stomach lining inside that's good to kind of peel out. It's hard to do with wet hands, but you take all that stuff out. So now we've gotten all the guts out of the sea bass, and you're gonna cut the gills out. Just cut around each side of the gills. This is really easy to do with kitchen shears too. Pull those out. So now you have an entire sea bass, and you'll rinse all this stuff out, and you can peel it out when you're about to prep the fish. I don't like to put fresh water on my fish before I'm ready to cook it. But all you want to do is basically take the back of your knife again and get all these scales off, the entire fish. And since you're doing the whole fish, you want to make sure to not overlook getting the scales off the collars, because there's a lot of good meat there. Same thing with the cheeks and the head of the fish. You want it to literally be scaleless. Don't want to overlook the undersides of the fish. So as you can see, this fish Once it's rinsed off, it will be completely scaleless. You have all that good meat inside of here, both sides of the cavity. You got the collar meat still intact. You took the gills out. It's very important. That will give a whole fish a very foul taste if you leave the gills in. So you're gonna rinse all this stuff out really well. When you prepare a whole fish, if you're frying it, the fins get super crispy. They turn into like almost like a chip-like taste, and they're really good. And you really want to cross hatch cuts. I'm not going to do this now because I want to do that when this fish is ready to be prepared, rinsed off really good. That will help you get some seasoning into the fish, and that will be your last chance to kind of take the rest of the scales off as well as cook evenly. And it makes eating a whole fish very easy to kind of pick out a nice healthy portion of the fillet before you start kind of picking out all the meat that's around the fish. Really recommend trying a whole fish preparation, and we'll share some recipes on some of our favorites. I have prepared 2 fish in 3 different ways to give yourself the most versatility when it comes to preparing these fish. We have a whole scaled and gutted with the gills removed sea bass for a whole fish preparation. We have your traditional fillet, skinless, and then we have a scaled skin-on fillet. So these won't see fresh water until it's time to prepare them, and it's time to get them bagged up, back on ice, and next thing we'll do is prepare to eat these. Some of the best eaten fish there are. Love black sea bass, and those are my 3 ways that I like to prepare or process black sea bass to give myself a lot of versatility when cooking these fish.